Thanks, Mike, for arranging this and giving me an opportunity to talk about it. Actually, I was seeing this spontaneous city and also sort of left to be with a spontaneous part of the city. I think I like that idea. And I always feel we probably need to see see cities in different ways. And the message I try to put today is a good city is not a posh or glossy city designed by professional planners, constructed by world-class architects. And that is only part of the city centre. And if you go to China, many of the places show that kind of things. A good city should provide a place which is affordable, flexible, suitable to all sorts of residents, rather than just the rich in the cities. So that is the idea I tried to fit. And I was given this title, Spontaneous City, so I was thinking what to talk about. I got several projects. I work on China, but I thought probably urban village is a good idea, but didn't realize Cecilia talked about urban villages as well. But you will see probably it's not necessarily wasting the time, and we work in different areas. And to the place I have been worked on it is in Shenzhen for many years. Shenzhen is a new special economic zone in China starting in the 1980s, and which originally there's no city, there's many towns, many villages, and the village began to urbanize, and with investment from Hong Kong. So urban village development actually is a dominant feature in the Pearl River Delta regions. All the urbanization process probably have been influenced or led by the urban villages. So what is an urban village? It's a village with their traditionally do agriculture officially, but because urbanization, land have been taken over for construction, the local villagers have no way to earn a living. So what they have turned it to so-called producing housing. So they rent houses to migrant workers. So the original local farmers work in partnership with the incoming migrant farmers, produced this special phenomena in China they call the urban villages. So this is the bottom-up process of urbanization. And it's a local farmer and incoming migrant farmer to produce it without much involvement of the planners. So probably I will not use the slides because the time is quite limited. Some is overlapping with Cecilia. And I feel the urban villages in China actually solved a quite important problem of rapid urbanization in rapidly urbanizing regions. Housing shortages, particularly affordable housing for the lower income, is always a problem for poor countries and for fast-growing cities. And if we rely on the government to provide affordable housing for such large a population for such a short period, it's always difficult. But in China, the farmers created these urban villages. They built initially houses with actual rooms to rent out. After a few years, they earned some rent, so they built another layer on top of the first layer and a third layer. And after about 10 years, you can't just stand on top anymore. They demolish it and build family-based tower blocks in Shenzhen. So the area we studied, most of them was 5, 6, 7 stories high. And some places could do 12 stories. So these very small family-based buildings. I think probably some of the this is the first generation of villages they're renting spare rooms to the migrant workers. And later on, these are the so-called urban villages in Shenzhen areas. Each of the buildings is owned, constructed, managed by one family. So it solved the two problems. Local farmers have economic activity and the incoming farmers work in the factory, but they have a place to live. It solved the many different types of problems. So the urban villages in Shenzhen, it was given many different names. Some places, some architects and local government say these are the cancers of cities, because you got crime, you got prostitute, and you got health hazard, fire hazard, everything. And the urban villages is a bad place, because the building, you can see that the local called a kissing building. So two neighbors can kiss each other through their windows or shake a hand buildings. But it does solve a lot of problems. The most important thing in Shenzhen is the majority of the local population actually living in urban villages for quite a long time. 80s, 90s, even around the 2000s. And that table shows you in Shenzhen, the local residents is only about 25%. So the migrant workers are 75%. Most of the migrant workers can't afford to buy a house. They need to rent it. So they're renting all those villages. And you can see the skills. Some of the villages, this is some of the samples we looked at. For example, the top village originally have 572 households. They own about 716 buildings of the tall buildings. They provided accommodation for 61,800 residents of migrant workers. So that is only one village. Each household offered about over 100 rooms or bed to the migrant workers. So that's the kind of housing problem solving initiatives. It can't be solved by government building affordable housing. So this spontaneous development of the Chinese style is actually, I think, it's a revolution. It's a major feature of the Pearl River Delta development process. They also provide the factory spaces, because the villages have people migrated to Hong Kong in the 1960s and 70s. They swimmed over. They work in the factories. And when China opened the door, they bring back the investment from their factory and invest in their village. So the villages are the world factories we have using the goods in our shops here. And it's not necessarily everything happened in the village, but the village played a quite important role in industrialization. And the local shopping cultural facilities you can also find in the villages. So why urban villages? Inequality has become a major problem around the world. And the diagram shows the top 10% and the bottom 10% of the income gaps in China. You can see that gap is growing faster and faster. And the commercial housing China is building, many places become empty, and you got ghost towns because it's too expensive for people to buy or live in. And more rich families buy them not for living, but for their grandson which have not been born yet, or something like that. Or they just put on the market waiting for the price increase. So that's kind of market which is working dominant to the Chinese urban economy, but it does not solve the lower income working class housing. The urban villages, they did it. So it's a quite dynamic process. And I'm not saying all the urban villages should be kept, don't change it, but what I'm arguing is this simultaneous urban development have reflect the local culture, the local economic situation, and they have alive from gradually growing to become older and dilapidated and needed to be regenerated or redevelopment. But they should not be targeted to say we must replace the urban villages in 5 years. Many of the local authorities have tried that kind of policies. Most of them actually failed. And successful urban village redevelopment in the Pearl River Delta region, there are some but it costs a lot of money as well. So the argument that I would say, even China had this revolution of urbanization, and people thought, oh, the Chinese government planners have done a great job. That is only part of the story. Every city you see, the central area, the posh area, the main function area is planned. It developed quite fast. We have the so-called architecture's playground, and so anyone got the idea, you go to China and build it. But there are also simultaneous development areas in every Chinese city, most of them around the urban villages. So I would put that to kind of model. So in China, there's a two process of urbanization. One is the formal one. The government will take off the fresh agricultural land, build things on it. They left the village because it's too expensive initially to use the village. And they built on the fresh agricultural land. The villagers actually find a way to live in the cities. The urban villages provide the local farmers a way of learning of the city life, from producing agricultural products to renting. And it also provides ground for the income farmers to learn the city life, because they are living with the farmers' environment initially. It's not very different from the rural areas. So this kind of learning adaptation process in the urban villages, everywhere you go, you can see quite clearly. So I think that is the main argument I'm saying about different location. Urban villages are different, and you have the central area where you get peripheral ones, you get half urbanized ones, and they also have different kind of economic activities, and I will not go through that kind of detail. And that is a diagram I can show how the urban village economies have, where the money comes from, the agriculture decline, the rent increasing, and gradually the urban villages become an urban community, but maybe it's just for the lower income, not for the rich. So that fact needed to be recognized rather than just blandly call them the cancer of cities. So for that I end to the quote. Basically, I'm saying simultaneous city, maybe call it a city is not necessarily correct. It's simultaneously district of a city. And a city can't be entirely simultaneous. And a city can't be entirely posh designed by architects, because the population are not all super rich. Every city, we have poor, we have middle income, we have the rich ones. Everyone should have a place to live. And every place, even the urban villages, have a proper life. We need to let that go through that life stage rather than forcefully trying to clean this away. So, okay.